Hi trendsetters on YouTube. This is the third and last in my Insider series, and this is on the inside atmosphere of Trump's legal team. Now, we all hear these names every day and they become a bit of a blur, so I actually had to do quite a bit of research and make notes on this to keep them straight in my head. You don't have to, don't worry viewers, I'm going to read them collectively. But before I start, I noticed when Michael Wolff's book came out, one of the stories I read was that Trump ran around the White House manically saying, "Where's my Roy Cohn when I need him?" Roy Cohn. So who is Roy Cohn? Well, he was his personal lawyer for many years in his New York real estate dealings. And he cut his teeth back in the day at the McCarthy hearings, when so many intellectuals, writers, screenwriters had their careers destroyed in what is possibly one of the darkest times in American history. So he was a toe cutter for McCarthy. Nice. Now, amongst his other clients, I wrote them down here, were the mob bosses, Tony Salerno, Carmine Galante, and John Gotti, and Donald Trump. Now, I might be a simple girl from Australia, but even I know you can't do massive real estate dealings in New York and buy 3 casinos in Atlantic City, without being mobbed up. And I think this is an aspect to Donald Trump's business behaviour that should be looked at more. You know, he is so mobbed up. But we're not going there today. The ones I'm concentrating on are Ty Cobb, who is the White House Special Counsel on the Russia campaign. We've got Jay Sekulow, who's a Fox News commentator. Need I say more? But I will. He has numerous charities, and there's a very good Washington Post report on how he and his family have taken millions from these charities. Another nice man. We've got John Dowd, who responded recently, I think it was yesterday, that all this obstruction of justice stuff is a nothing burger. God, I hate that term. And the fourth is Don McGahn, who actually was in touch with the Russians. This is known, he even admits it, about the Moscow Trump Tower. That deal fell through for its own reasons, but it has been said that McGahn should resign now over that. So, this is the legal team. Okay. So, just relax, sit back, let me do the work. Trump's legal team. Now, what I'm looking at is the atmosphere, or how they feel about what's going on. So from a legal perspective, insider position on Trump's legal team. Trump's legal team. We had a card fall out. That'll be the center of this. And what would that be? The King of Cups. The King of Cups. So, because it's a reading for 4 people, I won't say at this stage who I think the King of Cups is, although I have a bit of an inkling. But for now, suffice to say, this is someone who rules the emotions, in general terms, of those around him. In a positive light, the King of Cups is someone who's very in control of their own emotions. So at this stage, it could be one of them who's ultra controlled, or it could be someone controlling the others. I'm doing a 10-card block reading here. So let me lay them out. All right. We're doing past, present, future. In the first rank, which is the past, which I would assume in this reading is about their actual hiring in relation to the President of the United States. So they're supposed to be representing law and order. They're supposed to be voices for the system. This is the Hierophant. And this is part of the recurring problem with the Trump White House, that there's this confusion between president and emperor. So they're the ones who are supposed to be informing the president of what his legal boundaries are, and you'd have to say they see their role a bit differently from that, because they have to, because that's what he demands. Because he doesn't understand his own role, he expects the lawyers to be all lawyers to be his personal lawyers and defend him, not the position of the President of the United States, or to act in the best interests of the country. So they were brought on board, I suspect, given their reputations and histories, to essentially be a new stable of Roy Cohn, for Trump. Next, the judgment card. They got called in because this peculiar and corrupt man stumbled into the presidency, and from the get-go, judgment was acting on that. Apart from anything else, there was all that talk about his business dealings should be wound up. You know, if you're going to be president, he just flipped the bird, as we say in Australia, to all that and kept on. So judgment was part and parcel of this presidency from day one. Third in this column of the past, just hang on to the money. Whatever you do, hang on to the money. So they provided the legal advice and loopholes for Trump to not be subjected to the usual scrutiny. And lest we forget, the Republicans were so bewildered and ecstatic to get into power, they didn't want to look. And the lawyers have kept up that role, which is hiding the money, keeping the money away from the spotlight. What's happening currently? So with this, we have the King of Wands, every reading remotely connected to Trump, King of Wands. We're talking about his legal team. So I would see this as the head of the legal team. It's difficult. Well, sorry, I'm not expressing myself very clearly today. With the legal team, each of them has specific roles that they look after within the legal domain. Every president has this. I'm not suggesting for a minute it's unusual, and I'm sure there are 20 others. But normally there is a head of the legal team who would have the overview of everything that's going on with the other arms of the legal situation, particularly when you have such complicated legal stuff going on as you do with this presidency. So I'm not sure which of them is the head guy. I don't think it's Jay Sekulow, because he's too young in a way to have much gravitas with the others. I don't think it's necessarily Don McCann. It could be John Dowd or Ty Cobb, but one of them has more personal power than the others. They all know that the sun is being beamed on this presidency. As I've said before, the sun usually is very positive things. It's right in the middle of this reading, but you couldn't say with the best will in the world, even if you loved Trump and everything he represented, that things were going really well for this president. They're not. So it has to imply a more negative connotation from the point of view of the legal team, which is the sun is shining very brightly on them. The Eight of Wands. This, in many ways, I think this card would have to sum up what's going on. It's flight, it's fast, it's relentless. So it works in two ways. So if you're on this side of the reading, you're throwing out all these barbs to other people, trying to keep them at bay. On the other hand, you've got all these spears and barbs coming in. So no matter which side, it's a constant flurry of weapons being thrown from the threat of the Mueller investigation as well as from the legal team out. Now, on the one hand, these are accomplished men in their field. It's their job to try and bring order to the madness, to try and protect the president in his role as president. That is undoubtedly their job, but they know the world is watching. The world, the globe here is symbolising that. Willpower, they're very strong individuals, this is not surprising. But we also come up here with a continuation of this battle, more wands or staffs, which is more battles. It's starting to take its toll, I'm thinking, on the legal team itself. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not more undermining of each other in the legal team, but regardless of what's happening, each of them is feeling embattled, and they know they've got a shitload of battles coming up. On top of that, they're not stupid men, although that could be argued in another context, but they have to be smart enough to be very worried. There is a truckload of stuff coming down, and they know what has gone on. So they're very worried about their own personal reputations. I hope they're getting really well paid, because their reputations will be in tatters after they've worked for this particular regime. So I'm going to pull some more cards now. Before I go on, a little Lena rave. The quality of the legal advice Trump's getting, you'd have to say, is suspect. They are saying to him that the Mueller probe will be over in 5 minutes, and it was going to be over by Thanksgiving and certainly by Christmas, and all of that. What does that mean? Well, that means they're either lying to the president to just keep him under control and just keep things ticking over, or they're lying to themselves and they're so deluded they've actually forgotten all their legal basics. There's no way this thing is going to be over quickly. So in a way, it reminds me of, this might seem strange, Michael Jackson's plastic surgeons. Now, if you look at the early surgery that Michael Jackson had when he just had his nose job done, etc., and he was still a gorgeous young black man around the time of Beat It and all of that, he was getting top-notch surgeons. And then after a while, when you want more and more out of somebody and they know that work will not look good or be good, you have to go to more and more, inferior plastic surgeons till you end up with those who are prepared to do all those things he wanted. And my vibe on this is it's a bit like that with Trump. He's already surrounded himself with guys who themselves are quite lawless and who themselves are quite treacherous in regard to the United States. Okay, so just to finish this, as I was just saying, they're in it for themselves. They're power hungry, they're money hungry. And who's paying them? Well, that would be you, American taxpayer. You know, these things are going to cost an absolute fortune. You could rebuild every bridge in America and repave every road with what this legal shenanigans is going to cost in the next 10 years. You know, so these again are greedy, power-hungry men. I think this is an interesting one. We're talking about lawyers, we're talking about justice. The outcome card in relation to this, there will be justice on the lawyers. So this, in terms of them being very worried, and they should be, this would indicate there's going to be judicial complications for the lawyers as well as reputational problems. They are going to be subjected to justice because the laws that protect lawyers, if you like, can only go so far. And I would say some of what they've already done that we know about, let alone what we don't know about, has actually transgressed. So although you could say you can't enforce a criminal action against a sitting president, this isn't likely to be happening while they're Trump's lawyers and White House lawyers. But down the track, there's going to be legal action for them as well. Wow. Okay. All right then, everyone. I love your comments. Keep commenting. I reply to as many as I can. But because I see YouTube differently from how you see YouTube, I've been doing it in the community column. So you guys might have to go back to previous videos if there were things other than a short comment and see if I've replied to you. Okay. Bye for now.